All right, guys. Hey, welcome back to the Antler and AFCO Podcast, the podcast for new and adult onset hunters. My name's Vince. I got Bryan with me, and we also have Pat Hill from Conditions Set with us today. It's going to be a kick-ass show. Right now, as we're recording, it's actually St. Patty's Day, so I brought you guys a Pat on St. Patty's Day, so that's got to count for something, right? I'm looking at my notes here because I've been rushed all day long, so I don't want to skip some things. If you guys hear some background noise later on, I'm going to try to fix it in post, but I've got family coming in, and they're supposed to be coming in sometime while we're recording this. So if you hear some kids stomping or dogs barking, that's what it is. Or it's Cooter over on Bryan's side, and God knows what he's doing over there.
No telling.
So get your green beer, get your whiskey out. Even if, this is going to come out on Tuesday, we can celebrate after the fact. Before we hop into it, I want to talk about a couple friends of the show. Then we're going to stop for a prayer, and then we're going to hop right in with Pat and Bryan, and we're going to have a fun turkey camp episode for you guys today. We got a lot of cool things we've been throwing back and forth, so I think it's really going to be a fun one today. So for starters, as always, Buzzard Roost Saddles. If you are looking to get into the saddle game, even if you're not, now's the time to do it. Check out Buzzard Roost Saddles. They are, in my opinion, and I've tried a bunch of them, they are the best, most comfortable, most adjustable saddles, just like I told you guys. I'm not lying about it. I want you guys to try them out, and try them out now. Get used to it now so that when it's time to hit the woods, you guys can hop in a tree and just start killing deer. As anyone who's ever hunted a saddle will tell you, opening day is not the best day to figure out how to hunt in a saddle. So get your saddle now. Use code AAFP10, all caps, on their website. That's going to get you 10% off your very own Buzzard Roost saddle. Now, Our Grounds Coffee Co. They are the official coffee of the Antler and AFCO Podcast. It's just damn good coffee. Ed has a roaster. He's getting things, in terms of the renovation, he's getting that figured out. I think he's going to be back up and running real soon here. Again, just like the prior weeks, I'm going to cut the code out this week. I want you guys to just support him for the love of supporting him. He's great coffee, great guy, great company. So check out ourgroundscoffeeco.com. Moving on, more innovations. My buddy Kyle's got a really kick-ass 3D printing operation he's got going on. He prints things mostly for guys who are working on their own bows. You got your own shop in your basement, in your garage. You start taking your bow apart, there's pieces everywhere. So he makes a lot of things, a lot of caddies to keep that stuff in one place, keep your tools, your thread, everything else in one place. He's also got 5-arrow pocket quivers, which I'm going to be running at Total Archery Challenge. He's just got a lot of really cool stuff. If you guys got things that you would like to see him do, hit him up. He's a pretty cool, down-to-earth guy. If you got a good idea, he can put it together. I want you guys to use code AFCO10 on moreinnovations.com. That's going to get you 10% off over there. And one of our newer, I was going to say sponsors. We don't get sponsors here. We just love each other, and we want to spread the word. One of our new partners, friends of the show, he's not a new friend, but he's new to the show, Adams Precision Archery. Dustin is currently building my tack arrows. I got him building me some Victory, what is it, Rip TKO?
Rip TKOs.
Yeah, yep.
I've never looked at Victory Archery before. I've just never done it. And Dustin's like, dude, do these ones. And I was like, all right, you're the guy that builds arrows. So we're going to run with those this year. I'm running a 125 head on front with a 50 grain insert. The back end is going to look like an early 90s fanny pack, color-wise. We got custom wraps for it. It's going to be bright-ass colors. It's going to be really fun, really cool. I shouldn't lose any of my arrows. I should be able to find them pretty good. But, yeah, check out Dustin over at Adams Precision Archery. He's not just doing arrows, although that's kind of his specialty. He does a really, really good job of that. He's got a whole wide array of other archery products for you guys. So check out adamsprecisionarchery.com and get yourself set up today. And finally, good old Spartan Forge. Spartan Forge is the best mapping and deer movement prediction app on the market, period. There's nothing better. There are so many features. I've lost track. Bill is constantly adding to it, making it better and better. I'm really excited to put it into practice with turkey season coming up, doing e-scouting, things like that. So check it out. Use code all caps AFCO. That's going to get you 20% off a full subscription try it out for free right now. When you want to move up to the big leagues, use that code, get yourself a full subscription. So I think that wraps it up, guys, for friends of the show. Bryan, do you have anything you want to do? You want to say before we kick off? Any announcements?
I don't think so, bud.
No?
Just waiting for next Wednesday.
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a second. I want people to know what's going on and where they can find it, because I think you got something crazy going on.
Well, I introduced my alter ego, Cooter.
I thought he's your cousin.
Well, yes. If you want to call him
you?
that.
Oh,
Yeah.
God. We're going to start this Granger Smith, Earl Dibbles Jr. debate now. I thought it was your cousin.
This is going to be like Adams and Dustin.
Exactly. Which Dustin does way better arrows than Adam, by the way.
Yeah.
So like we were talking about earlier, just I don't care about followers or any sponsorships or anything like that. I like to get out and have fun. And I think the things that I think are funny, my wife doesn't at all, but I think other like-minded folks think it is. And I'm like, I feel like I need to share this.
Yeah.
So I was like, let's do this. I just make shit up on the fly. There's no plan. There's no nothing. I normally shoot it in a couple sections, like my daughter did it this week because my wife wasn't home. So she was just like shaking her head at me and like, I can't believe you're my dad.
Yeah. How old's your daughter?
My 16-year-old was doing the filming this time.
Oh, so you are embarrassing the crap out of her.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So,
no.
But all of her friends like love us. So we were at my older daughter's lacrosse game, and then a bunch of the baseball kids come over, a bunch of the wrestlers. They all know me. They sit around us. Mm-hmm. And this one kid I swear to God, he would be my best friend if we were in high school. He's got ADD, and he does the weirdest stuff. And when he laughs, it's a honking in breathing, like, but I can't even do it. Oh my God, it's ridiculous. And we call him Fish because he's like, check out my new move. Watch this. He goes, I was like, what the hell? He goes, it's sick, isn't it? I was like,
you gotta love those high school kids, man.
Oh my man. I was just like, this is ridiculous. I love it.
Well, guys, make sure you're checking them out. I can't remember how exactly your name is spelled out. Bobcats and Broadheads.
Yeah, it's Bobcats _ and spell it out, and then _ Broadheads.
Yeah, so check him out. His content's fun. It's great. It's funny. And then on Whiskey Wednesdays, Cooter usually drops in. And it's just like we were talking about. You can tell you're having fun with it, and that's what is going to make this like take off, because you're not so serious about it. You don't need this to happen. You don't need it to work. You're just rolling with it, and that's the important thing on social media. Like we're saying, I think too many people are taking it way too seriously, and ultimately, if you're not having fun with it, you're not going to last. You're not going to make it. So, or you're like me, you are having fun with it. You're going to last. Probably still won't make it, but that's okay.
Yeah. Oh, I did. I just found out a buddy of mine owns SWAT Broadheads. And he said, once I hit 3K, we're going to do a giveaway. So he's going to give away 2 packs of Broadheads. He said, I can pick whatever ones I want, and I'll just post it and whatever. So you guys got listeners, you get first dibs. What do you mean, where am I at?
Where are you at with followers?
I don't know. Close, I think.
So you could be close or not close. It was probably like hey, this dude's not going to hit 3, so we'll just tell.
Well, that's the definition of just having fun with it without knowing where you are.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
I said, hey, when I hit this number, like 3K giveaway, kind of just rhymed in my head.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, when I hit this number, let's do a giveaway. He goes, okay. And I think I was at 2,700 maybe last time I checked, something like that. So I don't know.
Well, guys, go follow Bryan. I'm sure if you're not already following him, I don't know what you're doing. Go follow him. Make sure you're following Pat. Pat, what's yours? Just so people can do that right now.
Conditions _ sets. Conditions with an S at the end _ set. Just plain and simple 2 words with a underscore right in the middle.
Sweet. And we'll get into that name later. We got some fun stuff to talk about with that. So, guys, pause the podcast right now. Go follow both of those guys. You will not regret it. Before we get going too far, I don't want to forget, like last week, I forgot to say our prayer. And knowing the gospel, I'm forgiven for that. But I still I don't want to forget that again. That's, for me, if you've listened this far into the show, You know how important that is to me. And this show is first and foremost to glorify God. So let's go ahead and say a quick prayer, and then we'll hop into all the crazy stuff where people are going to be like, wait a minute, you prayed and now you're talking about this? I don't understand. It's called grace, folks. All right. Lord Jesus, I thank you for another opportunity to just sit down with two guys who are just amazing men that you've created, and get a chance to talk to them about your creation, all the great things that you allow us to enjoy in your world. I thank you for Jesus. I thank you for his sacrifice on the cross. He took the nails we deserve. He paid the price that we could never pay. And because of that, we are free to worship you. We're free to talk about you, and just have a relationship with you. And I'm just so very, very thankful for that. Life apart from you is, it's pretty damn depressing. So I thank you for Jesus and what he did for us on the cross. And again, Lord, I thank you for both these guys, Pat and Bryan, taking the time to sit down, talk to me. I just love what you're doing in their lives, and I ask you to please be over this conversation, be with us. I know that you are, and we just ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Okay, so first and foremost, I think let's introduce you, Pat. So let everybody know where you're from, what you do, kind of your general hunting background, how you got into it, why you love archery, things like that.
Yeah, of course. My name is Pat Hill, aka Condition Set. I was born and raised in what we call Nova, but Northern Virginia, in a small town called Warrenton. I say small, population of like 20,000. Everybody that went to elementary school went to high school together. And that is where I actually first got into hunting. Virginia's got some pretty nice whitetail. I was actually kind of spoiled. My first deer that I ever harvested, I was like 16. I shot out to 243 and it was an 8-point. And I was like, man, that was awesome. And then I was like, okay, well, is that it? And then
where do we go from here?
Yeah, I was kind of confused because I was like, I thought you had to like shoot a doe first and then, move your way up like in the ranks.
Yep.
And so I shot it and I thought it was awesome until it came to like the whole like harvesting factor. And then I was like, oh, this is crazy. I got to get all that out of there. Like,
yeah,
I was not prepared for that. And not gonna lie, I took a hiatus for the rest of the year from hunting. And then life kind of just got in the way. Went through high school, just, kind of working a job and going to high school, trying to help out mom a little bit. And then I ended up joining the Marine Corps right after high school and was over at Camp Lejeune in 1-6. Shout out to the Wu-Tang at 1-6. Got to do some pretty cool stuff over there in Bryan's backyard.
Yeah.
And, got to go some cool places and everything. And then I didn't really hunt much in North Carolina during the Marine Corps. It was we were very training oriented. We were in the field for 10 months every month for a whole year straight, just workups, rotations, deployments, workups, California for training. So life went by pretty fast there. And around Camp Lejeune, the deer are the size of dogs because it's so populated there. And there is no like quality management in certain areas. So I ended up actually coming down to Georgia, where I'm at now, one time to visit a buddy, and he's got a hunt camp up here. And at the hunt camp, they've got a bunch of pictures of, deer that they've harvested and everything. And I looked on the wall of all these pictures and I was like, dude, where'd you, like, I literally asked him, I was like, did you go out to Iowa for these? Like, and he was like, no, like that was shot just about a mile up the road over there. And I was like, dude, that looks like a Midwest buck. They don't grow like that in Georgia. And he, spit his coffee out. Like, are you kidding? Like, you better not disrespect Georgia like that. Like, and
about
then
to get a redneck beat down.
Oh yeah. went out there, and sure enough, he shot a stud of an 8-point in western side of Georgia, and I was just hooked. I ended up getting out of the Marine Corps, coming down to the Army because jobs were vacant. They were no longer existed because of COVID, and I've been here ever since. And that's since I got here is when I really got into bow hunting, and I got into archery kind of as a whole. I didn't first get into it because of hunting with a bow. I got into it because I liked the physics behind how a bow operated, and then I liked that it made me. You can't shoot a bow angry, and I had a lot of like anger problems and just always came home mad, and so I liked that I could do that because I had to be calm, and that was it. Actually, originally started out as being kind of like a meditation for me, and kind of helped me with my mental, toughness and stuff. And so ever since then, I just kind of got hooked on it. I absolutely love it now. I shoot every single day, probably about 30 arrows a day, and then met Dustin over at APA, and he has taught me a ton about archery, just, not necessarily how fun it is, but the actual science behind an arrow and how it flies and why he makes them the way that he does and everything like that. So, and then I kind of just got on Instagram and liked kind of filming myself being awkward talking to a camera, and now I'm here.
Hell yeah. Well, I love the stuff you do on there. And yeah, it's when you were saying Dustin's kind of teaching you about arrows, that's one thing. Like, I remember first getting into it, and you're under the impression that you just go buy arrows and shoot them.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Like, what is spine? What do grains mean? What do they matter? What's the technical term? When the way the arrow comes off? What is that technical term? Come on, guys. Somebody bail me out.
You're fishing here. I don't know what you're doing.
It's
Are you talking about helical? Left or right helical?
No, it's the way the arrow bends off the bow when it's shot. The something. It's a nerd term. I don't know.
Okay.
I went to private school, but you'd never know it.
Nerd terms are not for me.
But yeah, no, it's interesting because once you get to that next level, and you're like, oh, I really need to build an arrow for my bow. Oh shoot. And that's so fun. Once you dive into that, and Bryan, you know how it is when you dive into that. Gotcha, yep. Buddy. You guys don't know what that means, and you won't see this, but Bryan.
So the other thing is having someone who knows what they're doing sets you up. So you can't just go to a big box store, because I was down in Charleston, South Carolina. I went to like a Bass Pro or Sportsman Warehouse, one or the other. When I was like, hey, the new Elites came out. Can I hold this? He goes, yeah, but be careful. I don't know if you can pull this thing back. I was like, settle down, man. It doesn't have a D-loop on it. Or he goes, what do you mean? You don't just pull? I was like, just stop. I'll give it back to you now. It's fine.
That's 55 pounds, son.
Yeah, I'll just give it back to you. It's okay. So that's the other thing. I mean, if you don't have, like, Dustin's great with arrows and he does all that stuff, but I mean, if you don't have, the arrow has to be tuned to the bow has to be tuned to the arrow, vice versa. If you don't have that initial setup, I mean, you have to go to a pro shop, and they're not all legit. You have to find that one that's just, you jive with the guys, you can actually talk, and they're going to talk you through what they're doing. And that's the only way I learned with my local shops. The guy was like, hey, we do this for this, timing the rest because of, X, Y, Z. And I was like, man, now it's all kind of coming together. And that helped me just leaps and bounds above. And then he's like, all right, I want you to do the next one. So, and of course I did it wrong. So then he cut it off and made me do it again. And I was like, oh, crap. But it was your turn.
It makes you wonder how many guys are out there that don't, and it's not their fault. I mean, because you can go online, you can go on YouTube and learn absolutely everything. But I've found that there are some things you can learn on YouTube, and you can put it into practice and you're fine. There are other things, like a lot of archery related stuff, where you can learn it online, but when you go into your garage to do it, or you start trying to build your own arrow and you don't really know what you're doing without any guidance, it's difficult. So yeah, it's really good to have a mentor. And I wonder how many guys just, they go to for me, Dick's Sporting Goods or Field and Stream, and they buy whatever's on the shelf. They don't know what spine means. They buy a 400 spine, they slap a Rage on the front of it or a 100 grain field point, just the normal inserts, and they go to town, and their arrow flight, like they don't know that there is a thing called arrow flight. Their arrow might be flying off the bow like this, and they don't know any different. I wonder how many people out there like that, or how many people that know it and just don't give a crap. I bet there's a lot of that too.
That's exactly how I was. I bought my first bow. My first bow was a bear species. A great bow. I've talked to you about it a lot. I've passed it down to my best friend, and he uses it now. But I went to a local shop that's actually in Jacksonville, and I was like, I want 12 of these 28-inch draw length. And they cut them, and I took them home, and I made them all into the target. Now, just because they were crossing each other, holding hands, I didn't care about that. I cared that I made them in the target, and I was like, man, if they're sticking in the target, that means they can stick into a deer.
Right. Yeah, and how many people are even getting them cut to the right length?
That's the other
too?
thing.
Yeah.
I had one of my guys come in, and he's like, I bought the 12-pack at Academy that already had the inserts glued into them. They're perfect. I was like, no, they're not perfect.
32 inches long.
Yeah, so then he went ahead and cut them with a hacksaw, and it was the carbon was all splintered. He shot it. I didn't know he did this until he shot it into my target, and I go to pull it out, and the tip had actually swelled into the shaft. I was like, what did you cut this thing with, a butter knife? He goes, no, a hacksaw. I was like, you're an idiot. You're not shooting at my targets anymore.
He's lucky it didn't go through his hand.
Oh, I know. Well, he's like, well, I'm out of bow shape, so I turned the poundage way down. I was like, how'd you do that? He goes,
cranked it.
Yeah, I just cranked the limbs. I was like, how many turns on each one? He goes, I don't know.
7 on top, 3 on bottom. It seemed right.
I just eyeballed it.
I got it to where the peep sight was perfect.
Right.
On a used pawn shop bow.
Man. Well, so rolling into turkey-related stuff, we've kind of talked about what we're using. I want to talk to you, Pat, kind of what your turkey plans are for this year. Very recently, today and yesterday, I was talking to, there's a company that I may be working with. I'm going to test some of their stuff out. They sell basically like leafy suits and like turkey-related camo. So they're going to send me some stuff. We're going to see how it works. If it works, you guys will hear about them. If it doesn't work, you guys won't hear about them. So I'm very much dedicated to sharing stuff with you guys that I love, not sharing stuff because people want to sponsor things. There's plenty of people that are doing that. I don't need to fill that space. So we'll see how it works out. I got my other leafy thing still sitting down here. I'm hoping that this one's a little lighter. Yeah. I know scent doesn't matter with turkey hunting, but I also just don't like being a sloppy, sweaty mess. So mine's a little bit heavy. So we'll see how this stuff works out. But Pat, kind of run through what your gear setup is. Let's start with, do you shotgun, bow, or both?
This year I'm going to actually be trying both. I've got some products to test out. I had a couple companies hit me up. There's actually a new company that is out right now. And they are a broadhead company, and they hit me up. Not inserting a plug, but
no, you go for it.
Exact Archery. They're pretty new. They just hit me up with their new broadheads that they came out with.
Okay.
Pretty decent cutting diameter. It's a fixed blade with interchangeable blades. So it's not like a iron will where it's just one piece of forged metal. They are interchangeable blades. But I'm actually going to run this on the front of my turkey arrows this year. One, because I don't want to shoot an iron will through them and then hit a rock and destroy an iron will. But also, two, because they're standard at 100 grains, and my arrows are actually close to the same weight that yours are, that you're running this year, or that your tack arrows actually are closer to my weight. So my turkey arrows are going to be right about like 450, 445. And I'm running some VAP TKOs, just standard arrows. Got the hookup from Dustin, so doing that, and then that's what I'm going to run on the front of them. So I'm actually going to be doing some testing with these. I'll have it on my Instagram. I'm going to set up some ribs, and then go get like a beef ham bone and see kind of how durable these things go. And if that's the case, then we're going to put it through a cinder block like I do on my other broadheads.
There you go.
Hell yeah.
And then shotgun, I'm actually going to be running this year. I'm running a Remington 12 gauge. And I'm going to be running these Longbeard XR shots.
Can't
I'm
go
running
wrong
the
with
same. Yeah, I'm running the same Longbeard choke through it. These are the 3-inch 5 shots. I have never ran these before, but the videos that I've seen, I mean, these things are lethal.
You haven't shot one yet?
I have not. Is this what your buddy shot on your reel?
Yes,
Yeah.
videotape it.
Stoked.
So I think that TSS, I feel like if you are that big of a turkey hunter and you're hunting multiple states and you got the money, run TSS for your turkey shells. For the rest of everybody else who's just you're just your standard, you may still be a big turkey hunter, but you don't want to spend $60 on 5 shells. Those Longbeard XRs, dude, that's what I killed my Tom with at 60 yards last year.
And that's what I heard. They just hold a really tight group.
They do.
Really far.
Yeah. I've shot a lot of different non-TSS turkey loads that, if you're getting them into 20, 30 yards, you're gonna kill a bird with just about anything.
Yeah.
But if you have to reach beyond that, a lot of the other shells tend to spread out too much. Where you're getting, if you pattern at 40, you might have five BBs hitting, in the kill zones where they need to go. Those Longbeards, those stay tight. And I don't know if that's more the shell or more my choke. Or
what choke are you running?
So I have a Stevens 301 turkey, single shot and bottom land. I'm running the stock choke that came with it. I did a lot of research. I was looking into Indian Creek, and a lot of guys were like, the thing that came on, it's really pretty good. And I patterned it quite a bit. I don't see how it could get better than what's in there. Maybe some guys get ones that, every gun, every shotgun, that's a weird thing about shotguns. Every single one's going to shoot the same shell differently.
Yeah.
For me, for the TSS, I run the Woodhaven, who's their Apex. So TSS, I do Apex, which they're expensive. But otherwise, the Longbeards shoot the same pattern that the TSS does, and it stays tight. So
yeah,
we'll
and I'm running a Carlson choke with those. And then call wise, I've got 3 mouth calls, running Woodhaven.
Yeah, me too.
It's all I've practiced with. I'm a THP absolute guru.
Yeah.
I love the hunting public. I'm a hunting public nut.
Yeah.
And so I know they use them and they love them. They're comfortable to me. I like that they're flexible enough where I can put them in my cheek and they're not all like just tearing my cheek up and stuff. I actually have one and I've cut a little bit of the lining out so it fits a little bit better in my cheek. And I got a copperhead cut, and then I think this is a Reaper cut.
Yeah, the Reaper's a good one.
Yeah. And I like them all. And then I'm actually a really big pot caller. I got their Woodhaven Cherry Classic.
Yeah.
I absolutely love running a pot call, especially if I'm hunting with somebody and we're kind of doing a staggered where I'm calling and they're sitting in front of me.
Yep.
I think I'm just a lot better with a pot call than I am a mouth call. One, because I can breathe and still pot call, and you can't hear that while I'm running that. And then I'm running a cherry stick with that and a hickory stick, and I think they're just a beautiful combo. I think they run really well. I actually just told my wife today it was a sad day. I pulled out my call and
what happened?
I have a crack in my crystal call. I don't know how. I do know that it was in my hunting bag in the garage. The kids might have tussled some stuff around.
Yep.
Can't blame it on the kids, but it's okay because it means I get to buy a new one, and it's I mean, a test of durability. It still works completely fine. So I absolutely love it. Those are what I'm running call wise, and then a big thing for me, especially down here in Georgia, is the swamps and everything is boots.
Yep.
And instead of running a big muck boot, I'm actually running some extra toughs this year.
Yeah.
I absolutely love these things. Super light. If you don't like wearing socks, you don't have to. They're wicker proof. They have a nice insole. I used to help charter a boat a little bit, and this is what we wore. And I mean, Bryan knows with how hot it gets in Georgia. It was 87 degrees last week down here, and it's the beginning of March, man. Like, the last thing I want is some knee-high boots on muck running through like a creek bottom and everything. And then I've just got regular camo. I've got a leaf top that I'll put on if we're not sitting in a blind or whatever. So
you're not
the boots thing. Go for it.
You're not worried about snakes or anything. That's the only reason I wear my snake boots. Is just because they're so prominent here.
And snakes are really bad down here. I got a 5-foot Eastern Diamondback at the end of last year.
No big deal.
It was walking on like a main road, or not walking. Slithering on a main road. And I asked the guy that was standing there. He's a game warden. He's like, "Yeah, shoot it. It's gonna. If you don't, someone else is going to." And dude, it was huge. It was like 5 foot long, and that's the first time I ever seen a rattlesnake. And we have water moccasins here. That's a really big thing. So I haven't came across one yet. I'm deathly afraid of snakes, actually. I absolutely hate them. That's why I fail land nav all the time, because I see a snake and I go about a click the opposite direction. But no, not too bad. They do make like the shin things that I might get just so I can wear those boots.
Yeah.
With turkey hunting, I feel like you got to be light. Like, we talk about, being light with deer hunting and being immobile and stuff like that, but turkeys are moving all the time. I mean, you call, they're over there, you got to go to that mountain ridge, they're over here. Like, I want to try to be as light as absolute possible with the least amount of soggy stuff on me as possible. And that's the reason why I chose those boots. But who knows, I might come across my first water moccasin and I might be wearing hip waders for the rest of the season. So
dude, I had my first confirmed kill with my pistol on a water moccasin, because they don't it charged me. Like, I saw it, 3 to 5 feet away, and I was like, public land, I was like, oh shit. Okay, well, I was bow hunting, but I had my pistol in my chest rig. I was like, well, we're going to see how good this works. And as soon as he came up, he kind of crawled up a reed to kind of poke up at me, and I just let him have it and freaking smoked him. So, yeah, I mean, it was...
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Those bad boys are aggressive, man.
I was done for the day. Shot the snake,
crazy.
I brought it back, and I was like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah, my boot experience, I either run my bottomland Crocs, depending on how hot it is. Seriously. Because up here we don't have to worry about, like I was talking about last week, like I'm kind of in that sweet spot where like a tick is the most dangerous thing I'm going to encounter in the woods. So I'm kind of lucky with that.
Man, ticks are extra protein down here.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, I originally, when I first went out turkey hunting, I had the knee highs on, my lacrosse ones on, and I had to cross a creek, and it was deeper than I thought. And if you've ever had water go into those boots and then you dump them out and you try to walk quietly the rest of the day, you're screwed. It's just like your boots are so loud. So I run all year round just a plain pair of Solomon, I don't know what they are, Solomon hiking boots. Even in the dead of winter, like I have found that when I wear a normal pair of socks and those Solomon hiking boots, my feet are just fine. When I wear insulated merino wool, insulated boots, that's when my feet get cold. But regardless of that, yeah, I like to wear the Crocs. I did have an instance where my foot, Crocs get a little wet, they get a little slippery. Mm-hmm. And my foot kind of jammed into a stick, and it went through one of the holes. So that was kind of the end of that for that season. But So where are you? I assume you're more of a run and gun hunter then type.
Yeah, especially for turkey hunting. I like to be as mobile as possible. Where we live closer to the coast, turkeys are not as dense as they are more west and right off the cusp of where the mountains end. But I like to try to be able to get up and move, especially if I'm going to be hunting with the shotgun, because I can, be able to reach out a little bit further. So if I need to crawl about 20 yards and be able to see over, I can shoot a lot faster. One, I can put a lot more rounds out. Two, and I can shoot further versus my bow. If I'm shooting with my bow, I'd probably rather be zoned in a blind because there's more moving parts. It's going to take me a little bit longer to get sighted in on something, and I need something that is going to be covering me as much as possible if I have to draw down and stuff like that. So that's my goal, is if I do, hunt with a bow this year, will be to go in a blind, and then if we're running and gunning, it'll be with the shotgun.
You guys are both hunting Easterns, right? In your area?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we've really burned through time. I want to talk about the conditions set, because we talked about that before, and that was one thing we wanted to kind of bring up. That was Pat's idea. It's a really good idea. So explain what conditions set means, and then we can go further with our little segment on that.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'll give a little bit of a backstory too. I was for the longest time, my Instagram page was just Pat Hill, because I didn't represent anything. I just liked doing stuff. And then I kind of wanted to venture into, branding myself as somebody, and then eventually, if I get big enough, bringing other people on that want to. And I was thinking about names, and obviously the whole time I'm thinking of these motivating names. I just want them to be awesome and like shoot big deer people, like you know what I mean. And then I just kind of started thinking about my background, and one day, I don't know what happened, but condition set popped in my head, and I was like, that's it. And what it means is, in the military, you've got all of these different levels to a mission, things that have to happen, prerequisites. You're moving in a bigger piece than just yourself. The way that we like to put it is like God's feet. So like at platoon levels, you've got one platoon moving on this side, and once they're set into place, the other platoon moves, and it's like basically like God's feet moving across the battlefield. And what it basically stands for is, like, say I am going up to, about to either enter a building, or I'm on the crest of a hill about to go over, or about to engage an enemy. I have a brevity code, which is basically like a code word to let them know that I am set into place for them to do their next action so that I can continue on with my mission. And that's basically the conditions have been set for the mission to continue forward. And then I brought it into hunting, because a lot of people that aren't in the hunting industry, or that don't do this for a living, either to feed their family or stuff like that, they think that we just go out there and find an animal and shoot it, and that's that. There's no prep, there's no nothing. It's just a bunch of people that like killing animals, and it's the exact opposite, actually. You know what I mean? That's why hunting season is only 3 or 4 months long, and you have 8 months of prep, because you have to prep twice as long as you can hunt. And so I started thinking of, like, Dan over at Elk Shape, really big into, his physical fitness. Antler Feather Co., very, spiritual. It's like spiritual fitness. You're very spirit motivated. Same with Buckeye Outdoors up in Ohio. And so basically, I just wanted to bring out and almost spread awareness to people that it's more than just a bunch of, grown men or women that like to go out and just kill animals. It's, there's a lot of prep that goes into it, like we're doing now, talking about ammo, talking about our loadouts, talking, about the gear we're wearing. If you are a physical hunter, you got to be in physical shape. You don't see dudes that are just couch potatoes going out in the middle of Colorado trying to elk hunt. It's just they will not survive. And so that's kind of where the name came from. And I just kind of like to ask people, what are your conditions that you try to set into place to be successful? Because people have to remember, you put these conditions into play to have an opportunity to harvest an animal. Mm-hmm. You don't put these, conditions into play to guarantee the harvest of an animal. And that right there changes a lot of people's perspectives. So.
Yeah. And before we get into our conditions, I think that's definitely a huge misconception with non-hunters or anti-hunters, whoever it is. We put so much work into that. That's the whole grip and grin conversation. How in the world can you smile over a dead animal's body? Dude, if you knew what it took to get there, if you knew what it took to get antlers or just whatever, a doe, a turkey, whatever it is. Meat. The work that goes into that is not, season opens October 1st. I guess we'll go out and try to kill us something. It's a year-round obsession. It changes who you are. I am a father. I'm a husband, father. No, I guess my priorities: Christian, husband, father, hunter. I mean, I have that shirt, God, family, hunting, and that is who I am. 4 years ago, that was not who I was. I could have been, I work for John Deere. I like powerlifting. Prior, I was CrossFit. It's nothing in my life has ever gripped me like hunting has and changed who I am as an individual, aside from Christ, obviously. But, so enough of that. Just know, guys, if you're getting new into it, there's a good explanation when some person says, how can you smile about that? It's the work that goes into it, and it's a lot of work. So,
and
Bryan,
that's why I bring up. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But that's why I bring up, and Bryan, I challenge you to be able to do it too in the future. But I was talking. I've been talking to a lot of people of taking those individuals that don't understand the concept of hunting. And fortunate enough, my buddy that I gave my bow to, he understands it 100% because he is way bigger of a hunter than I am, just with long guns. And what I'm trying to challenge hunters that want to convince other people to get into hunting or want to convince other people to further themselves in the sport to educate themselves, and maybe open something new like bow hunting, is whenever you are ready, if you are financially able to, whenever you're ready to upgrade your bow or something like that, to find someone that wants to be enthusiastic about hunting but just doesn't have necessarily the knowledge or the mentor to teach them, to gift them maybe a hand-me-down of something you have to maybe that's what their financial gap is they just can't afford a bow. I had no problem gifting my bow because I knew at the end of the day I was going to buy another one. And the reaction that my buddy had on his face was just, it was priceless, because he wanted to get into bow hunting that much more because he saw how passionate I was to give him my bow. And I think we should all try to do that. If my kids were older, I would give my kids my V3X whenever I go to the next bow or whatever, or something like that. But I challenge
or that
all
broken
hunters.
Woodhaven call.
Yeah, exactly. I challenge all hunters that if you've got an extra bow laying around or something like that you don't use, and you've got someone that either thinks they know about bow hunting or that wants to get into it but just doesn't have that price point, to go ahead and lend it to them, at least for the season or something, or at least get it set up for them so they can see if they even like it before they go drop the money. And I think we'd change a lot of people's mindsets about the actual prep that goes into it, especially archery hunting. I know Bobcat all the time is making jokes with Cooter and everything like that, but at the same time he's still practicing. You know what I mean? He shoots every single day. Yeah, it's for his health and he loves it, but it also is in prep for, that September 18th start date or that August start date to go out and harvest meat for his family.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I think a lot of people play like everyone's balling out of control, and, nobody wants to talk finances. Nobody wants to say, hey, I don't really have money for this. Hunting is so expensive to get into. It's really, even when you skimp and go as cheap as you can, it's still really expensive to get into. And I would be willing to bet that's one of the biggest barriers to entry for people. So I love that's something that you're about and that you're promoting. It's great to have a backup bow, but it's even greater to have another brother out in the woods.
Yeah, there's, if you can. So, and I've done it. So I started like the price point thing. Just bought a new bow this year. It's my first new bow in 3 years. I was shooting a Martin before that because that was the price point I could get in at. So, and then every time I would upgrade something, I gave my brother my old Trophy Ridge sight because I moved to a B3, and if I update stabilizers, I give those to my buddy. Hey man, here's my stabilizer. It wasn't a bee stinger. I gave him a red line. It was, but it was here man, here's some arrows. Here's this. They're cut to your length. And the guy has just taken off. I mean, he's keeping up with me shooting. I'm taking him to a 3D shoot tomorrow. And he loves it. He wants to go turkey hunting. He's taking his son out for youth day. A guy from Puerto Rico is legitimately, I met him through the Marine Corps, whole nine, and he's just like, dude, I'm hunting. This is where it's at.
Wow.
So
awesome.
It's just one of those things, like you said, it's not so much sitting over the animal. That sitting over the animal is just kind of a quick pause, because that's when the real work starts, especially if you do all your own stuff. Even if you don't, just quartering it out and getting to that point is part of that process. And it's, like I said, that's when the work starts for me, getting that animal out of the woods and into the truck. And if you can't do that, I've had to stop on the side of the road and help a guy put a deer in his truck because he physically could not get it in the bed of his truck. I was like, man, and the guy, granted, he was 70 years old. But
he would have whooped your ass back in the day.
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me. But if I come across like a young, chunkier person doing that, I'm like, well, you need to figure yourself out first, and then you're going to be able to do this a lot easier. It's so that's, like you said, elk shape. Like he said something a couple podcasts ago. He goes, I don't care if you have to go in debt to buy gym equipment, do it, because it's going to pay dividends in the long end. I've got a gym in my garage. I've got some stuff, but like for my new bow price point, it was a huge thing. I ended up having to sell a gun so I could get into the bow I wanted, because my wife was like, hey, look, we've saved all year. We knew this was coming. We've planned for it. However, this is a little out of our reach. And I said, okay, I understand. I'm going to sell this gun. And then, it was a custom built 300 Blackout. I mean, it was a nice gun and I miss it, but I have a new bow. Yeah. So, and that's just, it's the way it is, man.
And when shit hits the fan, you're not going to want that 300 Blackout. Nobody's going to have that when you scavenge off the lives of those lost.
I've got a couple others, so it wasn't that big of a deal.
One thing I want to bring up too before we hop into the conditions, you guys both have brought up elk shape, being in shape, things like that. Don't let that be a discouragement for the longest time now, I was a wrestler, and then when wrestling was done, I was a partier. I got fat. I was 240 pounds. I'm 5'8". You do the math.
Oh, yeah.
So I know what it's like to be in that position, and then I got into CrossFit, and you can say what you want about CrossFit. It saved my life. At that moment, it saved my life. I was drinking a lot. I was depressed. I was on medicine because I was fat, and obesity causes all kinds of stuff. But I say all this to get to, like, I got into shape, and then I got into powerlifting, and right now I'm not where I would like to be, but I'm in pretty good physical shape in terms of just being a human being. What I want to say about this is, when you guys get on there, if you're in that state I was, where you're fat, you don't like where you're at, you know you're out of shape, you know you couldn't drag a deer, whatever it is, don't look at elk shape and think that that's the end-all be-all. If you're not Dan from elk shape, then you're just not even going to do anything, because you're never going to get there. Chances are you're not going to ever have a six-pack, but you can do a lot of things that can get yourself in better position for when you're actually out in the field. You don't have to be a ripped CrossFit athlete. You don't have to be able to squat 500 pounds. Just do anything. If that means taking a walk 10 minutes a day to start, whatever it is, any steps you can take to get yourself in better physical condition than you were the day before you're going in the right direction. So, because I've had people who are like, I'm never going to get to that, so I'm not even going to do it. It's too much work to not get to that end goal. That is a different person. That is not your end goal. Set your own realistic goals. Get yourself healthier than you were yesterday. Even if that's right now I drink 3 Monsters and then tomorrow you only drink 1 or 2, just take the little steps. It all falls into place. So
I think you have to look at the atmosphere that Dan Staton is hunting in as well. He's, resting at 5,000 feet of elevation to hunt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What you're saying is completely feasible because not everybody has to go try to shoot 1,000-pound elk or harvest, a bison or American buffalo or something like that. There, you can go into the low country or just like flatlands, Midwest, rolling hills and hunt. You know what I mean? You just need to be able to make it out there and not have an asthma attack, walking 500 feet to your tree stand. No one's saying that you've got to be Iron Man,
right?
But you got to be able to make it out there, and you got to be able to pack out what you harvest, or you're wasting meat.
Yeah.
And like you said, I don't. Brian, did you play sports in high school?
Or, I wrestled.
You look like you have like a wrestling, and that's one thing that I want to put out there for people is you both wrestled, and I know back where I'm from. Whenever states came, there was one mat middle of the gym. The light was on. You wrestled under the light, everything. I played rugby growing up as a kid. I got to travel, go to Vegas, everything like that. And I just want people that don't understand the concept and think that it's all about the trophy of holding up antlers. Remember the one time that you won a championship and you held up that trophy and no one else understood why you were so excited, but they also didn't see the 40 hours a week that you put in high school, the 40 hours a week in school, and then the extra, 20 hours in wrestling practice, the 25-pound weight cut that you did to make it there when you're walking at, 185 and then you want to wrestle the hardest division in the nation at 135. I mean, or 132, those are the things that people should look at. So it is our way of celebrating that the hard work is paid off. We're not celebrating that a life is gone. We are celebrating that, one, we are able to feed our families with something of natural meat that is grass-fed. And two, because all of the 8 months that we did to prep for that in physical, mental, emotional, arguing with the wife of why we got to go out and scout for 10 hours on a weekend instead of playing with the kids. Like, all of those things led up to that one shot, that one final shot. Those conditions that you put into place gave you the opportunity to hold up that state championship trophy.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I think people should look at. If you played sports and you know what it feels like to lose, and then win, it's the same thing with hunting, not seeing anything, missing, not being able to hunt, working a full-time job, having kids, choosing to go to church and then go get a second job if you can't afford it, selling a gun so that you can buy a bow, and then having that one shot that's successful.
Celebrating the journey.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's 95% of it is the journey there. And I've said it before, I think you guys probably agree, like, killing an animal, taking a life is the worst part of hunting. And I wish that didn't have to happen, but it does. And that's where, part of my conditions, that's kind of part of it. And we'll get into that. So let's start, Brian. We want to say, what are 3 of your conditions that have to be set before you step into the woods to chase whatever it is, a whitetail, a turkey, whatever it is.
So I'd like to be, first condition, because I'm a very physical person, I'd like to be under 200 pounds. Just me, because that's where I'm comfortable, my body moves the best at. And I can, run and gun, I can climb a tree, I can sit in the saddle all day. Anything heavier than that, I'm really not comfortable. I'm a little bit sluggish. I sweat a lot, so that it just amplifies it. And then it's just preparation for me. Like, I will clean out the garage and I lay everything out. I know exactly what pockets everything is in, when I throw that saddle on, I know where my bridge is. I know where my tether is. I know where everything is. Cooler's in the truck. It's cleaned out even before the season starts. It's strapped in the truck. That's where it stays. I've just run into so many times where I've been so far out that I don't have access to a cooler or anything. And I'm literally field dressing, quartering, and having to throw it in a cooler, stop at a gas station at the nearest town to fill it up with ice. And if I didn't have that, I would literally be having a carcass in, like you said, Pat. I mean, it's September here in Eastern North Carolina. It's 100+ degrees, man. You're not, you're racing the clock. As soon as that animal,
99% humidity.
As soon as the animal hits the ground, you're racing the clock. So those conditions have to be set. I have all my cleaning gear, my knives, everything gets cleaned, put in a Tupperware right next to my first aid kit and underneath the back seat of the truck. And then everything is all, I know exactly where it's at. The first aid kit's a big one for me too. Knowing exactly what's in there and exactly how to use everything. I couldn't believe how many people don't know how to use a tourniquet. Like that's the first foremost, hey, this is how it works. And it to us, it's, Pat and I learned very, very young age exactly what it's for and how it's used and why it's used,
Oh yeah.
And you never use your own stuff on someone else. You use their stuff. So, times, marking things. So I always have a nice marker in the truck just in case I have to mark a time that tourniquet's put on because you have to release it every so often. And those are the big ones for me is preparation, setting everything out, knowing what everything's in. So I'm not fumbling around looking for a release or, worst case scenario, something medical. Those are my conditions. Once I have all that done, I pack everything in, load the truck, and then I go through a series of drills essentially where I, get out of the truck, throw the saddle on, get to the back of the truck, put all my gear on, and then I download everything just to make sure I know where everything's at. And I'm climbing trees, end of July through August to make sure I'm not that retard that's dropping stuff all out of the tree and, day one. But those are my conditions.
What about you, Pat?
Yeah, I've got a few, along with Bryan, those are a really big one. My wife thinks it's absolutely crazy and loses her mind every time she sees me 20 feet up in a saddle in our backyard. And it's just like, what are you doing? Neighbors will come out and like looking at me like I'm crazy. And I think my biggest one, because most of us or all of us are either Midwest or, all the way east. And I'm looking at actually venturing out and moving west a little bit, possibly after I get out. A big one is preparation in regulations and in tags. So many times you see people say, oh, well, I didn't know. Ignorance is not above the law, especially when it comes to animals. Game wardens do not care. You don't know. You should have known. Here's a $500 ticket. They don't, especially on base game wardens, they don't care.
No.
And so that's probably my biggest one is I have my tags on a membership of every year, just auto renews. And then before I move out of Georgia, I'm actually going to buy my lifetime license. That way I don't have to worry about it anymore. But I think that's my number one thing. And knowing the laws, when does season start, when does season close. Turkey season for the past 2 years it used to start on March 1st. We don't start turkey until April 1st this year, and it was the same as last year, and it has tanked the numbers for turkeys that have been harvested. No one is happy about it, but I guarantee someone in the state of Georgia went out on March 1st and got caught with a shotgun with turkey loads in there, hooting and hollering on their calls. Because people just don't look. They're ignorant. Yep. They think that, oh, well, it was that last year. It's going to be the same this year. That one. The next one would probably be gear. That's a huge thing for me. Shooting my bow all the time. Knowing what my arrows fly like. Making sure my arrows fly good. Knowing how they hit the target. Knowing what it feels like. Because I shoot a 3-pin slider. Knowing what that top pin, that second pin and then between them shoots like. And then a big thing that I don't think people focus on, and Bryan hit the nail on the head, is low light. That's a huge thing. Yeah. Most harvests happen in the first 30 minutes of dawn and then the last 30 minutes of dusk. I don't know about y'all, but if y'all have ever climbed 20 feet up into a 5-inch pine tree on some sticks, trying to walk up a bow, a camera arm, a backpack, it gets a little nerve-wracking. And then
beef
you got
jerky.
Oh yeah, then you got Dustin telling you to shut the heck up at the bottom of the tree and to hurry up because the sun's peeking up. It gets a little nerve-wracking. So definitely not only practicing in the light, but go in your garage, turn off the light. Feel for things. Feel what it feels like to pull things out, to know, okay, that's that call. Okay, I know that is my, my wind scent or my wind director, and stuff like that. And then the very last one is probably shooting from uncomfortable positions. Bryan does it all the time. If you go look at his Instagram, shooting from the ground, shooting kneeling, shooting, drawing back, leaning around and shooting, drawing back, having to let down, pull back up and shoot. Again, a lot of people have that stereotype that it's one shot. It just, it's just lined up perfectly. They're just standing there like, hey, I'm over here, shoot me. It doesn't happen like that.
Never.
If you don't know, geometry, shooting from a tree, that angle is not the same as shooting from the ground.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge thing, is just practicing how you play. I mean, you do it in wrestling, you do it in football, you do it in rugby. Why not do it in hunting? Don't go out there and take a 300-yard shot on a deer with a rifle if you've never shot 300 yards at a piece of steel.
Right.
Not going to work out for you. They say it all the time. Practice your bow range. Hubs does it all the time. He practices out to 160, 120, 180. His first shot the other day was at 160 yards. No warm-up, nothing. 160-yard bomb. Yes, I mean, it was a beautiful shot, but he does that because you only get one shot with an arrow on a deer. Yep. If that deer walks out at 60 out in Arizona, he wants to feel confident to shoot that. And they always say if you shoot and you're comfortable at a distance, a long distance, half of that distance you should be confident to harvest an animal. Yeah. So again, yes, it all has to do with prep, but that's probably the largest one, is uncomfortable positions.
Yeah. My three, I think first and foremost for me, and maybe it's because I'm newer, maybe it's just who I am. I have to establish every single year, I have to establish my why. Because as you guys know, and as we've talked about, 99% of the time in hunting, you're failing. And that it depends on how you look at failure. I don't consider it like failure as in like, poor me failure. But the fact of the matter is 99% of the time, you're not coming home with anything. And if you don't have your why established, if you don't have your mindset established, you're not going to get up at 2 a.m. that next day to go walk through a pitch black woods that you're scared to death of. I don't know about you guys, maybe not. Marines, you may be immune to the darkness. I hate it. Every morning, every night. I can't stand it.
Them barking spiders are dangerous.
Dude, I'm fine until I walk through that first spider web. When I walk through that first web and it's thick and I don't know where that spider is, I'm like, oh.
Bryan has to deal with banana spiders up there in North Carolina, and those things will carry your snacks away right in front of you. They will pimp you. They will pimp you right in front of you. And the mosquitoes, they bite. They drink bug spray like it's candy.
Yeah, but so I make sure to establish my why, and that's kind of along the lines of my goals. My goals change every year as well, and I make sure that that's in line. I want to make sure that for me, spiritually, I'm hunting for the right reasons. I want to make sure that I'm not getting egotistical or whatever it is, that I'm out there, and that understanding ultimately I can put in as much work as I want. I can do everything right. I can nail it to a T, but God's got to find it fit for me to take that animal home to my family that day. So I want to make sure that's in line, because like we said, if you get discouraged easily, then don't start, because except depending on how many tags, generally speaking, you're going to be successful one day a year if you're that lucky. And there's a lot of year-round work that goes into that 1 second window that you let an arrow fly. So you've got to have that in line. Second most important to me would definitely be know every inch, every nook and cranny, every single little nuance of the gear that you're using.
Yep.
Like we said in the intro with saddles, opening day is it is the worst day you can learn how to use a piece of equipment. You need to be able to get everything you use. You need to be able to do it in pitch black, eyes closed. You need to know, to what you were saying, Pat, you need to know exactly where your bow is going to be. For me, I need to know exactly where my platform's hanging off the back of my pack. You need to know where every single piece of your saddle setup is. You've got to know where that stuff is blindfolded, because generally you're going to be blindfolded when you're setting up, when you're getting ready. So you can never spend enough time practicing. Your neighbors might come out and be like, what in the hell are you doing? They may not understand it, but that's okay. They're not the ones in the tree in the middle of October, November, whatever it is, or whatever you're hunting. If it's April and you're going for turkey, they've been hearing you out there, yap, 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 and they're wondering what in the hell is wrong with this guy. They don't understand it. But that prep work is very important. Know how to use your gear, know where it's at, know how to do it blindfolded. Along with that, kind of also to like Bryan and Pat, practice in less than ideal situations, because if you've never had a deer or a turkey or whatever it is run out in front of you, you don't understand the adrenaline dump that's going to happen. Human beings do not perform, and you guys will understand this perfectly. Human beings are not conditioned to perform under stress. You cannot, I don't know, maybe 1 in a million can do it. You are going to shit your pants, and you will not be able to do what you did at the range when an animal is in front of you.
Yep.
You have got to figure out ways to practice under stress. That could be doing 10 burpees, hopping up, trying to shoot your bow. That could be doing a bunch of 3D archery over the summer where your buddies are talking crap to you and you've got people watching. You've got to learn how to work under stress, because that's going to be the most Americans, a deer in front of you it's going to be the most stressful situation you've ever been in, period. Unless you were in the military, different scenario. If you've never done anything like that, that is going to be the biggest adrenaline dump you've ever had in your life. And you've got to know how to perform under that amount of stress. And then kind of the bonus, woodsmanship. Pay attention to your woodsmanship. Pay attention to how loud are you in the woods? Are your boots squeaking? How are you going across terrain? Understand your terrain, how you're going to get to places. It takes one wrong step to blow an area out. Know how to move in the woods and be quiet and stealthy, because that's gonna make your hunt. If you can't get in quiet, you're screwed. So those are my conditions, and I think those are all. A lot of them are very similar between the three of us.
They're all going to intertwine at some point or another. They're all going to intertwine. You know, it's just
they should.
Yeah, it's just how it's just the process in which that you get to that point. You know, it's all going to mesh together. You know, there's a condition set for everybody, but they're all gonna follow along that same wavelength that everyone's gonna say, oh, okay, well, you know, maybe I didn't do that. Maybe I should do this time. You know, and that's just evolution.
Yeah, and I think that to take it even a step further than that, you should approach everything in life that way. You know, I know for those, you know, you guys who are in the military, that I'm sure that's beaten to your head, because you were legitimately life and death scenarios. You know, you make one wrong step, your buddy gets blasted in the face after you kick a door in, or you do. For the rest of you, though, you know, whether it's your job, whether it's hunting, whether it's whatever it is, I think you should view everything from that lens. Make sure you have certain things set in place beforehand. Preparation is the key to literally everything we do successfully in our lives. But yeah, man, I think that was a good way to end it out. You guys got anything else you want to bring up?
No, I don't think so.
You guys just want to go get to drinking for St. Patty's Day, don't you?
I'm not. I got a 3D shoot tomorrow.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah. So, and that was, like you said, the 3D shoot thing. So I did one last month, and maybe it was the weather. It was probably me. Just haven't been under that stressful situation since deer season. I was punching a trigger. I wasn't pulling through. I had like 3 5s on my scorecard. I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
So, and that's just, with a group of guys, we're all talking trash, and just like, oh, watch me. And then it's like, bing. Oh, what the hell was that?
Right.
So,
and I think that's a great way, because it's not going to be the same adrenaline dump. It's not going to be the same stress as an animal. But in a way, 3D can almost be worse, because you've got, like, if you're shooting with a good group of guys, it doesn't stop. And it gets worse and worse and worse, when there's something to be said about, like, okay, you're in the woods by yourself, a deer comes out, everything happens. But when you're shooting target after target and somebody's watching you, that's a whole different type of stress too. Like when people, somebody's watching every move you make, it's a good way to learn how to.
Well, so, and there's, and Pat, you can attest to this, I'm sure. I've been shot at. We train for that. We practice those things. That's a different type of mechanism that when that stuff starts happening, I shift into an entirely different gear. Okay. Because that's, not only my life, the guy to the left and right of me, everything that's going on, there's a lot of other things that are taking place. But when that deer steps in front of you, it's you and him or her, whatever that may be. And that adrenaline is just, okay, this is it. This is what I've practiced for. And that's an entirely different adrenaline rush, dump, whatever you want to call it, than actually being shot at. I don't know. It's a lot of those things you kind of lose in the background when that stuff starts to really happen, because you hit that fifth gear, you hit that overdrive, and it's just, okay, we need to make it through this night,
And the biggest thing is, like, whenever you have a deer step in front of you, or an animal step in front of you, it's like 97% of the time they don't know you're there.
Mm-hmm.
So you are still trying to be quiet. There's a difference between, like, rounds going off, everything is loud, everybody is loud, versus you can't hiccup in the woods because they will hear it if it's dead silent. Those are I think those are the hardest days to hunt, is when it is a cold, crisp morning and nothing is moving, because only the things that are moving are their footsteps on the leaves that they are crunching.
Yeah.
A hiccup, anything, you letting down in your bow, hitting your riser, like, those are all unordinary sounds because they've just been walking for a mile in the woods. And I think you hit it on the nail on the head. In 3D archery, it's different. You shoot, an arrow, you hit a deer, the adrenaline dumps, it's done. You shoot one arrow, you hit a tree. Well, now you have to recuperate to shoot the next one. That one you hit a 5. Now you have to recuperate because the guy next to you just nut taps you. After that, you got to recuperate because you hit a 10, but you got to stay humble because you just missed 3 targets.
Yep.
That's like a high school relationship, just an emotional roller coaster for the next 18 arrows.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey guys, I don't want to keep you guys too much longer. I think that was a great episode. Again, I'm thankful for both of your guys' time. Pat, starting with you, let everybody know where they can find you again on Instagram or wherever online.
Awesome. Yeah. Conditions_set on Instagram. About to hit 1,000 followers, so super stoked about that. And I do just got to insert a plug for the man that has, got me this far. Dustin over at Adams Precision Archery. When I say that he builds every single arrow, he literally touches every single arrow that comes out of his shop. The quality that he puts into it, the time that he does in every email. He was on the phone. I was over at his house the other day, and he was on the phone with a customer for an hour and 45 minutes. not even trying to sell him on something, just explain to him the difference between a VAP TKO versus a VAP SS versus a RIP SS versus a V-Force. And I'd say that's the biggest thing that the customers get back from him. And the durability on his arrows. I shot one of these arrows earlier. I have one of the 3D targets that Bryan has, and I went through the 3D target all the way and into a wood post up to the fletchings. Neighbor doesn't know yet, so hopefully he doesn't see that. But went into a wood post, and I mean, the fletchings are just, still intact, still shootable. Shot it right after. And I know that a lot of like just factory bought fletched arrows. You go in through a 3D target, you pull it out, and I'll tell you, I'm even famous to test this stuff, and I'll pull it all the way through the 3D target.
Yep.
And they are just on there. It takes actual heat to get these off of there. He puts quality into his stuff, and we have a ginormous thing going on once he hits 10,000 followers. He's a little over halfway to that point, but once he hits 10,000, there is some spicy stuff that will be happening. So make sure to go over there. Please get this guy Instagram. Please get this man Antler Feather Co. out of Instagram jail. The man is just living his life, being a good American like he should.
Dropping bombs, baby.
Crazy,
Dropping
man.
bombs.
You know how many people I've seen after that have posted that, and it's insane. We need to make like a hashtag like ACFCO or AFCCO, like dropping bombs.
Yeah.
Just hashtag on everything.
I actually designed a shirt, and it is basically, I took just the bubble and the dropping bombs emoji, just what I posted. And I was going to make a shirt out of it. And I was like, I don't know if everyone's going to understand that, but I almost feel like I need to.
Agreed. I think you need to.
I can't count the times I've seen dropping bombs on Instagram, whether it was football related or archery related. I've also seen a guy on a fairly well-known page call for someone's head on a platter with a $10,000 reward if they find the trespasser that was on the trail cam. And I don't know if they got nailed, but I'm doubting it because I'm still seeing their stuff. Like right now, like I'm probably not even showing up in your feed. You got to come find me.
I have to. That's why you get so many likes at once.
Yeah.
Because I have to, like, every 3 days, I have to go over to the page and be like, just show some love, because it's crazy, man. I was telling Dustin about the other day. I was like, I feel like it was just that one person that was actually censoring, the meta platform that one time. I was like, let's see whose day I can ruin today. Oh, here we go. AFCCO, whoever that is. Bam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And the things that you see, I see much worse than that on there.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. It's,
I have worse recommended to me on my Explore page that's not even in the algorithm that I've been looking at.
Yeah. Freedom of speech says what?
Yep.
Like I said, the biggest thing that irritates me is like, I even in like, what could I have been talking about that would have been a dangerous thing? Like, I don't get it. Anywho,
if they would have looked at the video for the contents too, like, you know what I mean?
They would have banned Bryan because Bryan's original video said dropping bombs.
Yeah, like
the video I shared.
It's crazy. It makes no sense to me.
We're going to keep going. We're going to keep just doing what we're doing. We'll get through it. Everything passes. Everybody that has a bad day or a scandal or whatever it is. I mean, nobody cares about Hunter Biden and Burisma anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
If we're handing Ukraine billions of dollars now. So, if that's my fate, well, I'm good with that. Whatever. We'll get through it. Like I said, everything happens for a reason, and we're continuing to grow through it anyway. And I'm just going to keep doing it. That's what I like to do.
Sir.
So, Bryan, let everybody know where they can find you and Cooter.
Me and Cooter are at Bobcats _ and the and is spelled out _ broadheads on Instagram. And it's just my page on Facebook. They're linked together, I think. But Facebook is just really a regurgitation of all the dumb stuff I do on Instagram. So I think Cooter's going to make some more appearances. randomly throughout the week instead of just on Wednesday. You can hear my wife in the background, like
Mhm.
shaking her head going, oh my God.
She said
Yeah.
no.
We need a Mimosa Monday.
Oh,
And
Oh,
then a
yeah.
Freaky Friday. We need like a Mimosa Monday with like just all like white, like basic white girl stuff.
oh, that's a good
It's
idea.
just- This whole thing's he's gonna Bobcats and Cooters is all he's gonna change it to.
I'll get banned.
No, you won't get. You'll be fine. You passed the dropping bombs test.
Exactly.
They're not watching you. They probably watching me just because I like the Babylon Bee a lot.
Yep.
Oh man. Well, hey guys, make sure you're following both of those guys. They both have great content. It's great to follow along with them. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at Antler Feather Co. We'll get out of prison sometime. You know, it's liable to happen. So follow us there. Follow us over on YouTube, Facebook. I think I haven't really been using Twitter. I never did. I tried it for like a week, and then it's like another thing you got to swipe, and I just don't swipe it. It's I got too much energy going other places, but make sure you're following us at Antler Feather Co. And hey, if you guys like this episode, if you like this show, if it's giving you guys something to put into your arsenal to take into the woods with you, make sure that you like, share, rate and review. Rating and reviewing is a real big one. It helps get the show in front of more people. And when we do that, we can keep pumping out good shows with great guests like we had tonight. So that's ultimately going to make you more deadly in the woods. So for Bryan and Pat and Vince, this is the Antler and Feather Co. podcast. You are listening to the Antler and Feather Co. podcast.